Okay, so a third person. Can y'all hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there we go.
Yes, we
Wow.
can hear
Okay.
you.
Yeah, and honestly, feel free to just drop it in for everybody in the meeting. I could not tell if no one could hear me or if anybody could hear me. Well, that makes sense. Okay. Wow. So y'all did not hear anything for the first slide, but that is okay. Y'all saw the agenda and we'll kind of hop right into the calendar review. Anybody watching this on a recording is going to think that part was really funny. So starting with today, February 22nd, it is also National Margarita Day. So if you needed a little cookie break this evening, that's an idea for you. If you don't, you can just go back to eating cookies. That's totally fine. Today is also our just-in-time webinar for finishing off the program right. And tomorrow on the 23rd is our second ACH sweep, which is 60% of the amount you owe council. At this time, y'all have already received the ACH notification email. And if you needed, you've already done that ACH adjustment. So there's nothing that needs to be done for tomorrow. All of that will happen on our back end. This weekend, it doesn't say it, but this weekend is our 4th weekend of cookie booths. So if y'all are out and about, good luck to you. It should be super warm this weekend. And then on February 27th, well, really the night of Sunday, the 26th, and early morning, I guess you could say, of the 27th, our digital cookie site will finally open for shipped orders, which does include the new Raspberry Rallies. So it will go live at from 11:59 p.m. / 12 o'clock a.m. So exactly at midnight, it'll be turned on the 27th. So if you or any of your Girl Scout customers are interested in ordering the new Raspberry Rally or interested in placing a shipped order, those will be available late on Sunday, super early on Monday, and then they will be open until March 5th. So that's one of the new changes that we announced on Monday, is that our online digital cookie, including both shipped orders and girl delivered, will now be open until March 5th. So it was previously March 1st, but now it's March 5th. But we do expect those Raspberry Rallies to run out on Monday, if not, early in the morning when they go live. So if you are interested, again, do hop on at that time to try to snag some of those packages. Another update is our warehouse will be open here at North Central. Currently, we are the only reorder site open. So Ward, all of the trailer sites are now closed for the season. Our warehouse will be open next week on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at our normal time. So that is an addition that we added on Monday. And you can pick up cookies for any of those booths for that National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend. If you're looking ahead, you can already see that we do have HEB booths secured for that 4th, I guess now it'd be our 5th weekend of booths, but that 1st weekend in March. And those HEB booths will be posted today at 1 o'clock. So shortly after this, we'll be mad dashing to get those into eBuddy so that y'all can start signing up for them at 1 o'clock today. Moving right along, on March 2nd, our 3rd ACH sweep notification email will go out. And this may not include all cookies picked up during this, what we call cleanup week period. So if you do pick up cookies on Thursday or Friday or Saturday, those will not be on your 3rd ACH sweep. And instead, your troop will be having an additional final sweep that I'll talk about kind of at the end of this webinar. So moving into the National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend, that is from Friday, March 3rd until Sunday, March 5th. Like I said, our warehouse will be open Friday and Saturday at our normal times. And we will have those HEB booths available that weekend, in addition to any independent booths that your troop is interested in. The last date for all of our booths will be Sunday, March 5th. And really that should be a day where you're selling any remaining inventory, wrapping up anything, collecting payments from parents, and making sure all of those T's are crossed and I's are dotted. The digital cookie will close for girl delivered and shipped orders on Sunday, March 5th. So do make sure that you check in with any parents to see if they have any last minute orders that they need. Or if your troop is done, or if you have Girl Scouts who are done, it is totally okay for y'all to shut down the girl delivery option for customers by using the My Cookies portion of digital cookie. And if you do need help with that, we do have guides on our website, or you can always send us an email and we'll send you that guide, no problem. The reward opt-out will now be due on Monday, March 6th. So we did move that, gave y'all an additional week if that reward opt-out interests your troop. And those will be due at 5 p.m. on Monday, March 6th. And then on March 6th, also the third ACH adjustment will be due at 5 o'clock. And this is super important if a parent still owes money to your troop. And I'll talk about that way more in just a couple of slides. Finally, moving right along on Monday, March 8th, this is an updated date. Like I said, we did we're calling a micro extension, because if you were with us in 2020, this is nothing compared to what that extension was like. So we just extended it one more week through cleanup week. And so just to give y'all a little bit of extra time, we moved the end of program due date from Monday the 6th to Monday the 8th. So giving you 2 extra days. On the 8th, you'll have due final rewards, your online end of program report, and any delinquent account reports if you are submitting those. And I will be talking about those 3 bullets in just a couple of slides. That is what this webinar is about. So just hold tight if you're curious about what that process looks like for you. And then finally, on March 9th, the third ACH sweep will happen on the back end. The remaining balance of what you owe council will be due. So that won't include any cookies picked up on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, as those will be in the 4th sweep. And that is also the due date if you are depositing to council. So 100% will be due if you are depositing to council. The little arrow down there just kind of reiterates some future dates. So if additional balance after the 3rd sweep, a final sweep will be on Thursday, March 23rd. So just a couple weeks later. And we will be sending again a notification email a week before then, but we won't be allowing any ACH adjustments, because at that time, you shouldn't be needing to make additional adjustments. And if you do, then just reach out to us and we'll work with you on that. And then finally, the final rewards will ship to community cookie managers the week of Monday, April 24th. So like I talked about, we are doing that micro extension. We didn't want to change up the dates too much on y'all. We just wanted to give a little bit of leeway here and there, just so that our rewards aren't delayed any further beyond April and in May, so that you're getting those things before the girls are going out for summer. So I see a good question in the chat. So when did this change? Like I mentioned, this is an update that we did on Monday. So if you attended our Zoom webinar on Monday, thank you so much. If you didn't, there is a recording available on the eBuddy message boards. And we will be sending a link to that Zoom as well just later today in the eBuddy email. The eBuddy email will also have our new updated calendar, which I am posting in the chat right now as a PDF and as a link. Some people, the PDF doesn't work, and some people, the link doesn't work. So whichever works for you, feel free to grab it. But this is our updated calendar with just a note on these updated dates. Again, there's only 2 big differences, I guess 3 if you want to say. The first is that the end of program process is now going to be due on March 8th instead of March 6th. The reward opt-out is now due on March 6th instead of February 27th. And then finally, digital cookie is open a couple additional days beyond March 1st. So those are the 3 biggest changes. Everything else is kind of normal. Cleanup week is typically troops are doing more booths, stuff like that. So if there's any specific questions about the changes or how it might affect, feel free to drop them in the chat. But hopefully that explained those couple of date changes that weren't in the TCM companion. And then perfect, Jenny, we will be sending these in the eBuddy email that's coming out today. So you will get those there, or feel free to grab the calendar that I dropped in the chat now. Awesome. Okay, moving right along. So moving into the end of program checklist. So this is the end of program process, all capsuled into 4 nice little steps. And then I will be breaking out all of these steps in the next couple of slides to give you tips and tricks for making this go smoothly. So the first step, and what we think is the most important step, is that all of your cookies are allocated in eBuddy. All cookies must be assigned to Girls in eBuddy, and you will use those completed receipts to enter those cookies and the payments that you received from parents. The second step, which is the most important to our girls, is to select those final rewards. And don't forget the additional patches that are there at the very end of the reward selection. And that includes the Super Sister patch, the Cookies on the Go, the Cookie Rookie, the Booth Champion, and the Booth Sales patch. And I will talk about these in just a couple of slides, so I'm just kind of glance over this a bit. So if you're like, oh, I'm confused, don't worry. I got plenty more slides to explain all this. The third step is to complete the online end of program report, which is available now on our webpage. And we will start including it in our eBuddy update emails so that you have it handy there and you can go complete that once you have allocated cookies and once you've selected final rewards. And then finally, the fourth step, if it's needed, you will complete a delinquent account reports. And this is if a parent still owes the troop money on Monday, March 6th. And again, like I've said before, I will talk in a lot more detail in just a couple of slides. But really just keep in mind that the program checklist, when you're here at the end, is 4 steps. The first is to allocate. The second is to select rewards. The third is that online end of program report. And then the fourth, which may not be needed for your troop, but just keep in mind because it is a super important report, is to complete that delinquent account report. So now let's jump into further details about all of these steps. So starting with cookie allocations. So cookie allocation basics, all of the allocations are done in your Girl Orders tab. You will hop into it. You will select the girl that you need to allocate to using your handy dandy completed receipt. And then once you are under that girl, you will be given the option to add the order. So the little order button with the plus sign, you can click that and it'll open for you to allocate for gift of caring, booth, or other, as well as any payment. So if parents gave you cash, you can allocate all of the cookies and that cash payment all in one go. So what cookies will be allocated by the Troop Cookie Manager? This will include any paper order card sales. So if you had girls where they used their paper order card after initial order and they collected a couple more orders there and you provided them cookies, make sure that you are entering those cookie allocations for them. And like I mentioned, you should have that subsequent receipt that goes along with that. Any girl delivered or in hand cookie orders. So again, you should have those receipts if you are signing those off when the parents are picking up. And then finally, any booth sales. So we strongly encourage that you use the booth sale recorder to allocate those sales to your troop. But if not, just making sure that you're going in and you're allocating those cookies under that booth line. So do I have to allocate all cookies? What if my troop has unsold cookies? This happens every year. We have a couple troops where they have maybe a case, a couple cases, where, they were just kind of left over from the booth. The troop is totally okay with, implementing them into their end of program Sunday party. But should they still allocate those to the girls if they are considered unsold? So the answer is yes. You should allocate all cookies, even if they are unsold, or if your troop is kind of taking them in and paying for them and utilizing them, like I said, at an ice cream party, Sunday party. But if there are any cookies left unallocated in your troop, those will be allocated by the product program department blindly. So we go in, we make sure all of the troops are good. If we see any troops still having cookies remaining, we will go through and just allocate them as we see fit. And at that point, eBuddy is closed to y'all as troop cooking managers. So we do wait for it to be closed. I'm not going in today and allocating for you today. This is in theory when you should have already done that. It is now closed to you for the season and you won't be able to make any further changes. We won't call you. We won't send you an email. We will just do it blindly because a lot of the times we have like almost 20 to 30 troops that still have a remaining inventory that needs to be allocated. So moving down, so what do I mean by they all need to be allocated? So in your girl orders tab down here at the very bottom, you may have noticed a difference number. The difference number should be negative. It should be a negative number because in theory, eBuddy says that is the amount of cookies that is sitting in your living room that no one has picked up yet. They're waiting to go to a booth. They're waiting to be picked up. It's what you have remaining in your troop stock. This difference should be 0 before your rewards are selected. And this is the number we look at when we go in to blindly allocate. If we catch any troops that don't have a 0 down there for the difference, we will go and stick those all under girl. So for this troop, we would be blindly allocating 504 packages, and we would just stick them under the girls as we see fit. And we do kind of try to, raise at the girls to various reward levels that we can. But we know that the girls work really hard. So it is super important that you as the TCM are going in, allocating these cookies and making sure the girls get credit for all of the cookies that they did sell. So just a couple common allocation questions. So if you run into problems when allocating cookies, the first 2 things to kind of check on, and this can go for allocating cookies, or let's say a parent is saying that the payment amount is incorrect. These are a couple of things to double check on your end. So the first is to double check that all receipts were entered properly. So for both cash payments and cookies, this is a good time in the program, today, tomorrow, this weekend. So before we're really getting into the nitty gritty, to sit down, look at the receipts you have collected throughout the program and make sure all of those receipts are properly reflected for the girls that they need to be reflected for. This is the time to catch those missing payments, the missing cookie allocations, and make sure that it is corrected before you kind of get much deeper into the end of the program. The second step is to confirm that no cookies were mistakenly entered under the CGOC line, which means Council Gift of Caring, or that is our donated cookies. So making sure that those cookies are properly entered under that, and that if you did happen to, misprint where you entered your cookies, go ahead and correct that now before we get, again, much deeper into the end of the program. Do you allocate cookies by variety? So our council, we do not allocate cookies by variety. I will say you are welcome for that because otherwise you would be allocating for 9 different cookie options. And trust me, the councils that do that option, I feel like the volunteers there are probably a little bit more stir cookie crazy than the average volunteer. But for us, we will only allocate cookies by total and not by variety. So you kind of see it in just a couple of minutes. I'll explain the different variety or the different total options that you have when allocating. But for us, you will just allocate by total and you don't have to worry about X number of Thin Mints, X number of Lemon Ups, and so on. Another question we get a lot is, why does a girl have a negative balance? So why would a girl show with a negative 500 balance? So a negative balance just means that the girl has overpaid and needs more cookies allocated to her, or her parent has overpaid. So we've seen both of this happen. We've seen it where a parent just got a little bit willy-nilly and just did a lot of payments on digital cookie or submitted too much cash. And so they just overpaid by that amount. Sometimes if you are able to determine that a parent has overpaid, feel free to give that money back to the parent, but do make sure that you've checked all of your receipts, all of that good stuff before you give that money back. The other is that the girl needs more cookies. This is when you would want to check that you have entered all of those receipts, like I was mentioning before, or maybe the parent didn't let you know that they received another digital cookie order that they need to fill, and they are in fact needing more cookies. Moving right along into the purple. So does it matter what type of cookies I allocate under? So the short answer is yes. There is a CGOC line, like I just talked about before. There is a booth line, and then there is an other line. So kind of breaking these down, the council gift of caring, which is the first line that you'll see. For this, you will only allocate the council gift of caring cookies if you have collected monetary donations for that. So this is very similar to how the fall program works. And how the fall does is for every $5 you receive in donations, you get 1 unit of donated product. So it works exactly the same for cookies. So for every $5 collected, and that could be either a $5 donation at a booth, or let's say at 5 different booths, you collected $1 at each of those, equaling you up to $5. You would then allocate 1 package under the CGOC and a corresponding payment to go with that. So all of the gift of caring allocations should have a corresponding payment to go with it, because in theory, you were entering those when you have collected money donations for them. For booths, for the booth line, that will be any booth sales. We do ask that you use the booth sale recorder, but if it's not available for you for whatever reason, you can use that booth line there. And then finally, the other line. This is any additional cookies. This is, girl delivered from Digital Cookie. Maybe the girls wanted some cookies to stick in a wagon and walk around their neighborhood. Anything like that that you provided them cookies for will go in that other line. Don't, however, get stressed about the booth and the other. These columns will pull cookies from the same place. So in theory, imagine the cookies all sitting together in a pile. The booth and the other columns will pull cookies from the same place. So you don't have to stress too much about entering them in the booth or the other line. It's just so that you can kind of enter them in a nice, neat place and know that those cookies were done at a booth, or those cookies were, i.e. not done at a booth. And then finally, how do you move cookies from one girl to the other? So there's 2 options. The first is to delete the transaction that you previously entered, and then enter a new transaction under the correct girl. So that works if you entered a receipt, and then let's say that parent was like, oh, just kidding. I transferred it to my daughter, my other Girl Scout, or I transferred it to this other parent. You can go in and delete that transaction or correct it. Or the other option, and this works if it's for an initial order. So let's say a girl needed 350 packages for her initial order, but then she only ended up needing 200, and she's going to give 150 to another Girl Scout. For this, you can add a negative transaction to the original girl, and then again, go and enter that new transaction under the correct girl. And by negative, I mean literally the little negative button on your keyboard that you would use as the minus symbol or whatever. You will click that, and then you will enter the corresponding number that goes in with it. So these are some of those common questions. If you run into issues when you are allocating, remember to check out your TCM companion, or email us at customer care, but do make sure that you include a screenshot or a very detailed description of what you were trying to do, so that we can kind of review all that information and then give you a call or email you back with the appropriate answer. So I'm going to kind of glance real quick at the 2 questions that came in. So is there any additional shipping costs like they do for chocolate items with the nut program? There are no additional shipping costs, but I will say that the shipping costs, I want to say, is it starts at $12.99. And then once you get up to, I want to say it's like 10 packages, it's $14.99. And then how it works is that if you ordered 18 packages, it would be the $12.99 plus the $14.99. So the shipping is a little bit more expensive on Digital Cookie, and it just is generally more expensive, but I do hear it ships pretty quickly. So hopefully that is true, especially in Texas with our warmer weeks coming up here in April. Okay, so next question. So how do we know if a girl actually delivered their girl delivered orders? So when a girl delivers an order, they should be going in and marking the order as delivered. I'm so sorry. I'm not as familiar with how the Troop side of Digital Cookie looks for Troop Cookie managers. So if there is a seasoned TCM out there who wants to drop in the chat, if you can see if those orders were delivered on your end, I would love to know that. But I would assume, hopefully, that you can see if those orders were delivered when logging into Digital Cookie under the Troop side. And then Leticia put, cannot be done via phone. It needs to be done on laptop or PC. I think you're referring to allocations. I am not sure. But cookie allocations would definitely be easier to sit down and do on your computer and not trying to manage that on the app. So totally agree with that. And thank you, Michelle. You can see if the orders were delivered. Not a minus allocation. I got you. That makes sense. Okay. So you can see if the Digital Cookie orders were delivered on the Troop side of things. So you can kind of check parents there and then remind them if they have undelivered cookies. And then, oh yeah, perfect. So the minus sign is not available on the phone, which that's something that I feel like you'll only figure out if you try. So thank you for that. So that means that if you do need to add any negative transactions to a girl, you will have to do it on the laptop or PC, or at least go into the site on, website and not the app. Perfect. And then I can include our shipping graph in the chat here at the very end. So let me get to that and then I will put that there for y'all. Perfect. Okay, hopping right along. So just a couple of reminders about Digital Cookie and eBuddy, and I'll kind of fly through this because I hope this is very familiar to y'all at this point in the program. So for Digital Cookie orders flowing into eBuddy, we have 4 different type of orders. So we have delivered and in hand. These will flow in as payment only, and you can see a great example just up above. There's no cookies allocated, just the payments. And then for donated or shipped orders, those will show as a payment and a cookie. So why aren't cookies shown for girl delivered or in-hand orders? So in theory, a girl's in-hand delivery is provided by the TCM or Troop inventory. So you know what the Troop cookie manager is picking up from our reorder sites or from initial order. And those cookies should be allocated by the TCM as those receipts are completed. So in Digital Cookie's mind, the TCM is allocating those cookies to the girl. So it's not going to go in and allocate them for them because they again are getting it from the Troop's inventory. So where do Digital Cookie payments go? So Digital Cookie payments go into a council account, or it's really a GSUSA account, and then they send us reports and checks every once in a while, and those are applied by Digital Cookie to your Troops eBuddy. So you'll see all of those payments listed under each girl in the girl orders tab. You'll see them in the payment tab, and you'll see them in the sales report tab. And the way they kind of updated that this year is they lump all of the payments together, and it's awesome and amazing. And you can kind of review the total collected on Digital Cookie super easy by going and looking at your sales report tab. So do drop any questions in the chat if you are still confused about Digital Cookie. This year, a lot of people have been grasping this really well. So I hope that all of y'all feel pretty confident in how Digital Cookie orders work with eBuddy at this point. But again, drop it in the chat if you need me to kind of slow down or re-review it a little bit more. Awesome. Okay, so then allocating from the Troop Digital Cookie site. So this is a new allocation process for us. And even if you've been referencing your printed TCM companion, I'm so sorry to tell you, but that process is old school at this point. And if you are kind of curious why it is so different than what the actual process is in the site, they released this updated version in November, and our printed TCM companions go to print in July. So from July to November, they made these changes for the better, really. But that is why the printed version is not the most updated. So they did simplify this. In eBuddy, you will go to the girl orders tab and you will go to the troop site girl, or, the girl that is listed as your troop site. If there are payments for girl delivered or in hand order, then a DOC payment button will appear. From this button, it is a drop down. You can kind of see it on the side right here. You will then be available to transfer to any girls or to use in a booth site and record in a booth sale. So if girls use the troop site to accept payments at a booth, and this is a perfect example. You can see it right above this HEB. You can then go into the booth sale recorder and allocate out these sales so that girls get credit for those payments. The second allocation is if there are cookies for donated or coming soon shipped orders. Those, again, a button will appear with distribution. Wow, I didn't even read the button before typing this out. For distribution. And then once you click that, you'll see kind of what looks a lot like the booth sale recorder. And then from this, you will be able to go in, select the girls that you want to allocate to, and then allocate those cookies and that payment to those girls. So it should be super simple. But again, when you are going in and doing the allocations, using the TCM companion, it's not the best resource. And we do have a better guide available on our link tree that we've been including in our eBuddy update emails. Is that, oh no, I went the other way. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to glance at the questions for 1 second. Okay, Nicole, I am going to return to your question there at the end because that might be a little bit more in the weeds. It is not updating when booth cookies are allocated. Update their totals offline sales update. So, okay, and Michelle, I'm going to respond to your question there at the end as well, because that one is takes a little bit more explaining. So I'm going to come back to both of y'all's questions here at the end, and we will jump into reward submissions. We jumped past it. So for reward submissions, this should be done after you have allocated all cookies. So you've completed step number 1 out of our 4-step process. You've allocated those, and now it's time to move on to step number 2, or reward submission. So like I said, you've allocated all cookies before going into choose rewards. Girls can provide their reward choices using the family guide. And we do ask that you use the family guide, or you check in with the girls as you are going in and entering rewards. Because after a certain date, if a girl wanted one reward, but it was entered by the TCM for the other reward, we can't always replace that. So it is super important that the girls' main choices are going in the site and being submitted by the troop cookie manager. And then troops who do not make reward selections will receive the default rewards as they're marked on the order card in the family guide. So you'll see them with the little asterisks next to them. Any girls without selections will just receive the default. And like I just said before, it's super important for our girls to get what they actually work towards and what they wanted. So do try your hardest to go in and make sure those rewards are selected so that your girls, get their first choice. And if you don't, then they will be receiving the default. And like I said, we can't always replace those once we get to the end of the program. So you'll go in, you'll fill out for the final rewards. There's a handy edit all below, or you can select the girls by their name, and then you will submit those girls' reward orders. A couple additional reminders about rewards. Like I said, select rewards and sizes where applicable for the girls. So every year we get a handful of girls where they selected the t-shirt, but then they didn't go in, and the TCM didn't go in and select the actual size. We do our hardest to use the size that is on the girl permission slip when we see that. But it is just super important that you're making sure you're getting that selection done and the sizing done before you're going in and pressing submit. Down at the very bottom, like I mentioned, we have our free additional patches, and it kind of looks like this over here. And this is our super sister for this year, super cute. You can enter the number of however many patches you need. And there are descriptions of what the requirements were for these patches in the TCM companion on the end of program page. So when you get ready to finally do your wrap up, do utilize that page, and it has those requirements, although they are considered on my honor. So we're not going to kind of hunt you down and be like, oh yeah, did your sisters, go about door to door? They do say inventive. No, it's all on my honor. So just making sure that you are giving those patches as you see fit. For girls reaching 12,000 or above, so this is super important if you have any go-getter Girl Scouts. For these girls, they should only be selecting final reward items, emphasis on the word items, and not cookie credits. So girls who reach 12,000 and above, so 12,000, 1,500, 2023, any of those levels, those girls will automatically receive a set amount of cookie credits corresponding with the highest level reached. So i.e. the girls at 1,500 package level will receive 150 cookie credits and all reward items. So at the lower levels, so at 475, 500, I don't even know what levels we have. I'm just spouting numbers. But those lower levels, they should not be selecting cookie credits because they will receive that lump sum. We try to check for this every year, but sometimes we will see a girl where they did select cookie credits and they won't be receiving those cookie credits at that lower level. And like I've mentioned before, once we get past a certain date, we can't always get a replacement reward for that. So it's super important that you're checking this when you are submitting rewards, if you have any girls who hit that 12,000 or above. And then for only juniors, cadets, seniors, and ambassadors, we do have our opt-out of rewards for the additional 5 cents per package. This form and requirements are on the cookies webpage. And as a reminder, the due date for that is March 6th. So the due date listed on the form will be February 27th, but you really have until March 6th to get that into us. And then, like I keep saying, I keep repeating it, but we cannot always replace rewards after they are submitted and ordered by us. So do double check that all reward orders are correct and selections are correct before Wednesday, March 8th at midnight. Now is a great time that if you haven't started talking to your girls about what rewards they like, go ahead, send a note out to parents. We still have some family guides, I believe, here where you can use that. You can always print out just a page of the lower level rewards and have your girls circle what they want and turn that into you. But whatever it is, do start working on receiving those selections so that you can have that all submitted nice and pretty before Wednesday, March 8th. Okay, wow. Go. Perfect. Okay, so now moving right along onto step number 3. So you've allocated, you've selected and submitted your final rewards. And finally, it is time to move on to that end of program report. So this will be linked, like I said, in the last eBuddy update emails, but it is available now on our webpage. It must be completed by every troop by Wednesday, March 8th at midnight. And it should be your last end of program step. And it is really designed to ensure that you have completed after submitting rewards and after doing all of your allocations, because it does ask you in the form if you have made sure that those are done. And in addition, it is a super simple, like, honestly, I want to say the questions you see on the screen are about as much as it asks you. It has a couple of yes or no's at the bottom. But even though give me a second, even though the form is very short, it can affect your troops' eligibility for additional or future program incentives. So it is super important that you go and turn this in, because that does include the fall product program early bird incentive, where you can get additional proceeds during the fall program. So super important, get this end of program report done. We have it scattered across all of our materials. So really there shouldn't be a reason why y'all are not able to get this done by Wednesday, March 8th at midnight. And if there is a reason why, reach out to us, we'll work with you. But we would love to see 100% of our troops get this form turned in on time. Awesome. Okay, so now we have moved on to our fourth step. This fourth step isn't a required fourth step for all troops, but it is required if there are two things happening. So you should complete this report if one, a parent in your troop still owes money on Monday, March 6th. So Monday, March 6th is a super important date because that is when the ACH adjustment is due. And you cannot have a delinquent account report without an ACH adjustment. And you can kind of see it up here in this little red stop sign. You must also submit an ACH adjustment form if you plan to submit a delinquent account report. The second option is if you, not option, but you should complete this report if the troop will be submitting an ACH adjustment on Monday, March 6th. So, i.e., either a parent still owes money to your troop on Monday, or for whatever reason, so maybe the troop has unsold cookies, maybe a parent, maybe you're just, going crazy because your receipts don't match up, whatever it is. If you are submitting an ACH adjustment on Monday, March 6th, then you should also be completing a delinquent account report. This report is designed to do two things. First, it protects troop proceeds. So you are able to kind of claim what parent or the fact that your troop still has money due. And at the end of the program, if we were to still pull that ACH sweep, it would go in and affect your troop's proceeds. And sometimes if it's a parent causing this delinquency, you oftentimes will not get those proceeds back. So it is super important that you do this form if a parent in your troop still owes money, because first and foremost, it is designed to protect your troop proceeds. The second is that it's designed to account for all money owed by a parent or by the troop. So it directs responsibility and it accounts for that money owed. We look at those delinquent account reports in our audit, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But it really is designed to help troops and not create a hindrance on a parent or anything like that. This form is going to be due at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, March 8th. So it does say March 6th on the form, but it's really due at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, March 8th. And if you think that a parent is going to have any issues, or they still haven't paid you, or like someone was mentioning in the chat, they're just being very unresponsive, then it is super important that you complete this delinquent account report and you submit it by the due date along with that ACH adjustment by the March 6th. So it's weird that there are two different dates this year. That's not the intention. It's just because of the micro extension. But if you do an ACH adjustment, go ahead and get this delinquent account report due, because we cannot accept it after the due date, right? So after March 8th comes around and goes around, we cannot accept it on the 9th. We cannot accept it on the 10th. We can't accept it on the 11th and so on. But let's say you turn it into us on March 8th and the parent comes to you and they submit their money on March 9th. That is perfect. We can rip up the form. We'll shred it. We haven't even looked at it. We won't even be entered. But this is a case of it is better to be safe than sorry, because for this type of issue, being sorry would mean that your troop misses out on proceeds. It means that any money that is due from your troop falls back onto the troop cooking manager. So it is super important that if you are worried about any parents or your troop is going to have an excess inventory of any kind, that you go ahead and complete this delinquent account report. And I think I have more on just the next slide. Yep, perfect. So if you are planning to complete a delinquent account report, and this is going to break down all of the various things I've been saying, the first is to complete that online ACH adjustment form on Monday, March 6th at 5 o'clock. That form shuts down at 5. There are no late submissions being accepted. And if you are planning or thinking about submitting a delinquent account report, it is super important that you get that ACH adjustment form in by 5 o'clock on Monday. The second step is to complete a delinquent account report. This report is just a form available in the TCM companion on page 18. We also have it linked on our website. We have it linked in our link tree. We have it available any places. We can print you a copy if you want to stop by the Sally Cheever, if you're going to be at the warehouse, however you need to get it, but it is available out there and it's a paper form. And again, this will protect troop proceeds and account for all money due. In addition to this report to filling out the sheet, oh, hello, you must also include hard copies of, the form, all signed or product receipts, the girl permission slip if they did a paper form. If they did online, we provide that. Your ACH adjustment form confirmation email, so to confirm that you did do that ACH adjustment, and the end of program report confirmation email. So if you are worried about a parent, go ahead and screenshot this slide right now, and keep in mind that you will need to complete all of these steps. And this is again highlighted in the end of program checklist page on the TCM Companion, page 17. So if you are worried, better safe than sorry. Keep this in mind so that you know what proper steps to take. And then down there in the red, and it is super important that we say this, but failure to complete the ACH adjustment form and or the delinquent account report, so they go hand in hand, they are best friends. So if you fail to complete one or the other, and you aren't doing both, oh my gosh, hello. For the full balance your troop owes, this may result in the delinquent amount being payable by the troop cookie manager. So this is part of the TCM agreement, is that you understand that if you have any parents owing money or your troop has a balance due at the end of the program, if you don't follow these two steps, that balance will go back on you as the troop cookie manager. So I think looking at the whole program itself, this is probably the most important piece when wrapping up your program, because if you do need to complete this process, it is super important that you do it on time, and that you do it correctly so that that balance does not fall back onto you, and it goes to the proper person that is responsible for the balance. Okay, this is like the hardest talk of the program. So if you do have questions about this, drop this in the chat. I would love to talk about it more if you are worried, but I'm going to rush right on along because I'm almost at the end of our time slot. So closing out eBuddy. So these last couple of slides are just kind of some trickles of some nice tips and stuff like that. So at this point, the 4 steps of the end of program process. We have allocation, we have final rewards, you did your online report, and you did your delinquents if you need. And so now this is just kind of stuff to help you and your troop go on into the next year, because I bet some of this stuff your money managers or your co-leaders will be asking for. So in eBuddy, we suggest that you pull some reports before you leave for the season. So there is a reports tab there at the top. The first is the reward report. So this is super nice to have when you are sorting rewards. And so you can kind of see it there. There's a final option, and then you can click view. You can even come to our offices here. We'll print them for you if you want to have them printed, or we recommend that you print them yourself or save them as a PDF for easy access. The second report is the digital cookie or DOC sales report. You can kind of see it down there, DOC orders by girl. This is to know the number of digital cookie sales for girls. And oftentimes we do have troop leaders or money managers asking for this because they're going in and making sure that the accounts are all kosher on their end, which we love to hear. But sometimes you might want to reference it for future years so that you can kind of help your troop plan out your cookie program for the next year or the year after that. And then finally, I would so recommend everybody does your sales report page at the minimum. We get asked for PDFs of this page probably way too many times to count, but I would recommend at the very least you go and you pull your sales report page to have a record of payments, proceeds, and cookie quantities from this year's program. So when you go to the sales report tab and you go all the way to the bottom, there is an option to either show as PDF or print the page. I would recommend you print it, save it with your files, and also take that PDF and save it to your computer or share it with your troops leadership. I promise you they will be asking for it. So go ahead, do yourself and your troop a favor and save that sales report page so that you can have access to it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of speed through our third and final ACH sweep reminders. A couple of things that are important to know about ACH sweeps. So the amount to be swept listed on that notification email that we send comes from the amount you owe council in the eBuddy sales report. It's important to note that this may not include all digital cookie sales and payments for all of Thursday or whichever date we send that email, just because sometimes it takes a while to flow in and we pull the report at a specific time. But do know that the balance that we use to calculate the sweep amount is already adjusted by eBuddy to include all previous digital cookie payments. So that is not a number that we adjust after we pull it. The amount you owe has already been adjusted by eBuddy to include those. The amount you owe council could also possibly not include those reorders picked up on Wednesday or Thursday before you receive the ACH sweep email. And since we are doing a little bit of extension, we do know that most of our troops who are picking up for National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend will most likely have a fourth sweep or what we call a final sweep. It's just a cleanup sweep to make sure all of those balances are in. And then if you do not think you will have 100% of the remaining balance by Thursday, March 9th, or the third ACH sweep date, you must complete that ACH adjustment form and for the third sweep, a delinquent account report. So just a review of the dates down below, our next sweep date after our second one that's happening this week is Thursday, March 9th. So do work next week and next weekend to collect all of that money, get it in your account and making sure that you are reviewing the balance available in your account so that when you get that notification email on March 2nd, you know that on March 6th, moving right along, you can either, you'll be good to go and you're fine because your booths went really well that weekend, or you will know that you won't have all of that money due and that you do need to do that ACH adjustment form and submitting that delinquent account report. And then that third sweep will be Thursday, March 23rd. This will be any remaining balance due to council unless you've submitted a delinquent account report. It will include any of those last minute cookies that you picked up, and you will receive a notification email on Thursday, March 26th. 16th right there, which again falls in the same format where it's the Thursday before. And there will not be an ACH adjustment available for the final sweep. But if you do have any issues whatsoever, do reach out to us. We'll help work with you, especially with how the micro extension is kind of throwing things just a little bit off just by a week though. So that's a recap of the ACH sweeps. If your troop is planning to do National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend, I would recommend you take a screenshot of this, keep this handy, and also share with your money managers because they are the ones that have access to the account balance and they can kind of help you make sure everything is kosher on that end. Okay, so finally, just to review our internal product program cookie program audit process. Couldn't be any of a longer slide title, but this is just to give some transparency on how it works in our office here at the end of the program. So if needed in y'all's court, the TCM will complete the delinquent account report and an online ACH adjustment form, and you will submit it either to your community cookie manager or the product program department directly. The product program department and community cookie managers will check delinquent account reports for all required documentation and completeness. So, i.e., does the balance due equal the receipts provided? Because if they don't, then we have some questions there that we need to be answered before we are able to properly accept that report. The product program department will list all delinquent account reports in what we call an outstanding balance list. It is really a list of every single person who still has a balance owed to us. We will then enter our final ACH sweep amounts into eBuddy, and we'll pull reports from eBuddy of all troops and balances owed. So at this point, we're kind of listing out what we know we will have a balance for, and we're trying to figure out what other balances are we able to identify. After this, we will begin our audit. So like I said, we will be highlighting troops that owe money and determine if a delinquent account report was submitted for that balance. We will be completing delinquent account reports for all TCMs or troops with a balance owed that did not submit a delinquent account report. So it is an automatic process for us that if we have a troop that owes us money, but we did not receive a corresponding delinquent account report, we will go ahead and fill that out on our end for the primary troop cookie manager. So that little box with the red lettering, that's exactly what I'm talking about here. So it is super important that if you do need to complete that delinquent account report, you make sure you get it done and you get the ACH adjustment done, because if we don't receive it, it will automatically fall under the troop cookie manager. And after the due date, we are not able to accept any late delinquent account reports. It will be owed by the TCM, and you will just have to work with that delinquent account or work with that delinquent parent to help rectify the situation. And then we'll highlight troops that have an overpayment or need an ACH credit sent. So let's say you accepted a lot of money on Digital Cookie. We will go and kind of identify those troops. And then our last step is to send back proceeds and overpayments for applicable troops. So if your troop did an agreement to deposit and your account's set up and you're ready for your proceeds, we will send it to you. If you accepted a lot of payments on Digital Cookie, like I said, and you need a payment back to you, again, we will send that back to you in an ACH credit. Awesome. Okay. And I think that, questions help. Perfect. Let me kind of give a glance to the chat, and I will see if there's anything I can shout out. So Nicole, I know you said you had to hop off, but maybe you're watching this recording. And if not, I know we're going to reach out to you about a case you sent. But her question was, is if a girl uses personal stock for Girl Delivered, then do I go in 5 credit or minus from personal numbers? No, that question is very confusing. Actually, we will just call her. But if you also had that same question, feel free to let me know in the chat and I'll kind of go into more detail. But the short answer there is no, you wouldn't have to add a 5 credit or a negative transaction for it. In theory, you've assigned that personal stock, and she's just selling it off. And so you don't need to do anything like that. Unless you're talking about booths, then let me know. Okay, Michelle said that she noticed that Digital Cookie is not updating when booth cookies are allocated to an individual girl. So this is true. So Digital Cookie and eBuddy for our council do not talk to each other. If you enter an allocation in eBuddy, it is not going to show as a girl's offline sale in Digital Cookie. We are still waiting for GSUSA to release that option for our council. And really the reason why we're not able to use it is because we use what's called category view. So you know how I talked about on the allocation slide, that we allocate by gift of caring, booth, or other. So those are the only 3 options we have, and you don't have to allocate by Thin Mint, Limit Up, Trefoil, all of that. So because we use what's called a category view, we're not eligible to use the Digital Cookie and eBuddy talking to each other function. So technically Digital Cookie will not update with eBuddy transactions. So instead parents can just update their offline sales if they are interested in seeing those numbers properly reflected on their end. We do hope in future years that GSUSA will release that functionality, and that it'll be nice and eBuddy will talk to Digital Cookie and girls can see what they're at on Digital Cookie and they can work towards their goals on that site. That would just be lovely. So we're waiting for that to happen. let me know if that answered your question. Next question. So how do we get charms, or how do we request them? So the charms were our instant rewards this year. You can come get them from our warehouse at any time. We have a nice healthy stock still available back there. Just let us know how many girls you have participating. We'll set you up with the charms, the patches, and the little requirement sheet for that. So again, if you're going to stop by at the warehouse, let us know and we got you there. Next option. So the other Superstar seller opt out where the junior cadet. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, April. That is a great question. So I think the question in hers was at the 1200 level, are they still able to get free camp? So the answer is yes. So new this year, and this is included on your rewards page. But we did a new type of opt-out where it's not a troop opt-out, it's a specific girl opt-out. The girls who are cadet, senior, or ambassador, so it is the higher level girls, the girls that reach that 1200 level, they will receive, and submit the opt-out form, they will receive 3 things. So the first is that they will receive 1 item of their choice from what we call the lower levels. So that's 30 to 1,000. They'll receive 1 item from there of their choice. They will also receive any of the items they received at or past the 1200 level. So if a girl hits 4,000, she gets all of her reward selections at 1200, 1500, 2023, 3000, and 4000. So she receives all of the big stuff that she wants, as well as one of her Superstar reward options. And so we have a form for this opt-out. The form is ready now, and we will actually be including it in our eBuddy email out today. And we'll try to get it on our website very soon, because we know we have a couple girls really interested in that, which we're super excited about. But if you have any girls that are interested in that, feel free, grab that form. We'll have some printed copies available in the warehouse. And so you just need to fill that out with the girl and then send it into customer care, and we'll go out and process that. Thank you. Great question. Great segue to provide more information there. Awesome. But let me know if you have more questions about the Superstar. Awesome. Yep. The Zoom will be shared. We're hoping to have it linked in our eBuddy email coming out in like an hour or so. So you can check it out there, or as always, it's available on our website in about a couple business day or 2. How do girls earn the Cookie Weekend badges? So our council, we don't have any set requirements for it. So really as a TCM, feel free to do whatever requirement you feel necessary for your girls. What we kind of say is if your girls do a couple booths on National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend, in my eyes as a TCM, that would be eligible to receive that patch. So definitely, if you are interested, if you have girls, it's a super cute patch. Thank you, Patsy, for dropping it down there. It is really cute. And I believe they do have it for sale in the shop. I hope I'm saying that right, and that Sebastian's not going to run down here and be like, we don't have it, but it's also available online through GSUSA if you need. Yeah, Patsy, I hope it'll be available in the shop too. So how do you allocate booth cookie sales to girls that use personal digital cookie at booths instead of the troop digital cookie? So that just means that the girl used her own personal digital cookie site to accept credit cards. When it comes to that, the easiest way to allocate those is to still use the booth sale recorder. Right? Especially it's an HEB booth. We want to know what those sales look like. So use the booth sale recorder as you would normally do. And then the second step is you will go in to the girl in eBuddy and you will add a negative payment for the total amount she accepted on her digital cookie site. And the reason why we're adding a negative amount is because digital cookie records sales under the girl, right? We all know that. I talked about that on a couple of slides. For the booth sale recorder, it also records a payment as well. So if we left it as is, then the girl would have duplicate payments. So let's say the girl accepted $20 on Digital Cookie and Digital Cookie showing for 20, and then the booth sale recorder showing for 20. Then what you kind of need to do there is just add that negative so that you're saying only consider this $20 once. So it's super easy. You'll use the booth sale recorder and then you'll add a negative for the total amount she accepted on her Digital Cookie. Awesome. And as always, let me know if that answered your question. For Troop account and Digital Cookie, is there a way we can see timestamps so that we have multiple booths on the same day? I can see which are for which booth. This, I'm going to send this out to the audience. Does anyone know the answer to this question? Because I have been asked this several years, and I wish there was a timestamp, but as far as I know, there is just a date. I don't know if Digital Cookie itself includes a timestamp for them deeper in the site, but I know the reports that you're able to pull only show the date, Lisa, which we're in the same boat. So far, I only see the date too. So that is something that we have suggested to Digital Cookie in future years, is to add a memo line or some type of selector so that the troop can kind of indicate where the payment was accepted. And I would totally recommend y'all, if you want to help us out, bombard GSUSA with requests for this. If you go to the Digital Cookie site and you go all the way down to the bottom, there is a yellow help button, and I'm trying to pull it up here on my screen, but there is a yellow help button, and if you follow that, there is a way to suggest or to enter feedback and suggestions. So you see it right down here. There's a help. If you open it up, you can contact customer support. I promise I won't, and then share feedback and ideas. And I would so recommend that if you have feedback and ideas, that you come here, you fill out this form, send it into them. It doesn't come to us, it goes to them. Because every time y'all send us a suggestion for something in Digital Cookie, oh boy, do I wish I could just go in and make that update immediately. But I just take your suggestion and I send it into GSUSA using this form. But this is something that y'all can access on your end as well. And I so recommend, maybe if they receive, 45 suggestions for one thing, they might get moving on it and go and add it in. So I'll drop this in the chat for y'all. If anyone wants to go and pester them, don't tell them I sent you, but maybe do. I don't know, your choice there. Awesome. Okay, so moving on quite along. Yeah, no problem. No problem, Michelle. Thank you for coming. April, it got charms, but the insert pet was not included in the last shipment. Oh, that's weird. Okay, so you should have gotten the patch with the charms. If you didn't, please let us know that, because then that's something we needed to have reported to Little Brownie to get more. We do still have what I said, like a hefty amount of charms and patches. But if everybody comes running at us, we will start to run out. So do kind of double check to make sure you don't have them. And as always, at the end of the program, we'll start getting excess back from other community cookie managers. So hopefully if we do get those back, we can send them out to y'all and they will be included with those final rewards. The patches were the patch and charm combo was super cute this year. And trust me, we waited long enough to get them that all of the girls definitely deserve them. So do feel free to stop in the warehouse or reach out to your community cookie manager, get them from them. And if we're able to get some at the end of the program, we'll make sure everybody is set up with their sets before we finish out. Okay, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. One last time, I am adding the link and the PDF for our updated calendar. So some of the dates in your TCM companion won't be as correct. So do reference that calendar. Again, our warehouse is open next week, including Saturday. So if you do have any booths during National Cookie Weekend, good luck. And feel free to stop by if you do need any inventory. Check out our eBuddy email coming out today. We have a lot of really good updates in it, lots of super important stuff. And we will have those, we'll have those HEB booths for National Girl Scout Cookie Weekend coming out today at 1 o'clock. We went ahead and put that on the eBuddy message board this morning. But like I was saying at the beginning, feel free to hop in today at 1 o'clock to snag any of those HB booths that you'd like. But thank you guys for attending. I'll stick around if anyone has any questions or needs me to look at their eBuddy, but happy cookie season. And we are, almost done with it. So if your troop is already done, you can go ahead and start your end of program process now. And definitely use the checklist that's on page 17 in your TCM companion to kind of help guide you through this. So that you aren't sitting down and being like, wow, what did she say at that webinar? I have no clue, but don't worry, we got a whole page just for that. But thank you guys for coming and have a great Wednesday. Bye. Awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and end the call now. So email us at customer care if you have any other questions that we didn't get to. Thank you.